Hi, young adults. Today we are going to be going over Module 48, which is talking about social development. More specifically, we're going to be talking about attachment. So go ahead and make sure you have your Module 48 notes out and open, and you're going to add some notes into your journal as we go through and talk about different forms of attachment. Okay, so you have a question of the day, an exit slip posted on Schoology for you. So the question of the day that you're going to answer is number one. Think about all the relationships that you have in your life, your family, your friends, your teachers, your coworkers, whoever that might be. Who would you say that you are most attached to and why? Okay, so if you have not already answered that question in the question of the day assignment on Schoology, go ahead and pause the video and answer question number one right now. After you've answered question number one, by the end of this presentation, you should be able to answer question number two. So does your answer support or not support the findings of Harry Harlow, and be able to explain? So the first question that we're going to talk about is, what is this idea of attachment and what is the purpose of attachment? When we think about social development, starting all the way at infancies, right? Babies are very social creatures in all countries, not just in the United States, but anywhere you go, babies are very social, right? Infants are going to develop a bond with their caregivers. So when we talk about attachment, what we're talking about is that close emotional tie that you have with another person. And once again, this is shown in young children by seeking closeness to their caregiver. So that could be their babysitter, it could be their parent or both parents, or one parent or grandparent, whoever it might be. Okay. From an evolutionary standpoint, people would argue that the reason why an infant has to have this close emotional tie to another person is that's what keeps the infant alive, right? Like, yes, the infant has amazing capabilities when they're born, when you think about all the reflexes of things that they can do. But one of the things that they can't do, they can't move more than their arms and legs, right? So they depend on someone to feed them, they depend on someone to care for them, and that's what keeps an infant alive, right? So from an evolutionary standpoint, there needs to be some type of close emotional tie that enables an infant to stay alive. So when we talk about attachment, this close emotional bond, how is it that humans specifically form attachments? And there are two things that your book is going to argue that help form attachments, right? So where these attachments come from, we'll talk about two of them. The first one is talking about body contact, touch, right? Touch is one of the greatest ways that you can facilitate a human attachment. So the person who is going to, or the two people who are going to study this are Harry and Margaret Harlow. And this is a very, very famous experiment talking about body contact. So I want to say they were doing this in the 1960s or so. And before that, the primary thought was, if we're talking about like heterosexual relationships, why is it so many children are more emotionally attached to their mothers than their fathers? And the prevailing thought for this attachment was like, why are, kids more attached to their mothers, right? And once again, we're talking heterosexual relationships here, is because, and this is kind of the status quo during this time, that mothers were the ones who were feeding the infants, right? Mothers are the ones who could breastfeed. That's why, children are attached to their mothers more so than their fathers, right? So Harry and Margaret Harlow wanted to kind of test this idea. So they conducted an experiment using baby monkeys, right, to determine whether or not attachment comes from nourishment, which is, we're talking about food, or security through touch, right? So one of the videos you're going to watch later on after this segment is a video of Harry Harlow's experiment. And if you look at the image there on the right, so what he did is he took baby monkeys and he separated them from their mothers right when they were born. Okay. And some of those monkeys were raised entirely with a wire monkey. So the monkey on the right there, it doesn't really look like a monkey, but that kind of device made out of wire, and then it's got like the white thing with the two black eyes at the top. That's supposed to be like a wire mother monkey. And that wire mother monkey always had the bottle. So if the monkey, like these baby monkeys, ever wanted to get fed, they have to go with a wire monkey. And on the other side, you have what's quote unquote a cloth monkey, right? So the cloth monkey is soft to the touch. So what they would do is they'd take these baby monkeys and they'd separate them from birth from their mothers. And then what they would do is they would put this like scary device. It makes this like loud screeching sound in with the monkeys to make them really scared. And they would watch, where does the monkey go? And when the monkey is scared and they need someone to comfort them, and I'm saying someone, but that's in case we've got this cloth monkey or this wire monkey, those are the only things they have to choose from. When these baby monkeys are scared, the mother that they run to is the cloth one, right? So this is kind of trying to show the idea that the attachment is to the cloth monkey, not because the cloth monkey feeds the baby monkey, because it can't. It doesn't have the bottle. The wire monkey has the bottle. But the idea is that they're comforted by the touch of the cloth monkey, right? So there's this idea that body contact helps foster attachment. That bottom image right there that you can see on the screen, that is an image of what appears to be like a dad and a newborn premature infant. And the idea is that, like, generally speaking, after an infant is born, either both parents or one of the parents will take turns kind of opening their shirt, and they will place the infant child like skin to skin contact to help foster attachment. Okay. So the first way humans form attachment is body contact, touch. Okay. The second way that humans form attachment is through this idea of familiarity, right? So when we're talking about familiarity, what we're discussing here is this idea that, like, when something is familiar, it's well known to you. And generally speaking, if it's well known, it gives you the signal of being safe, right? And so you feel safe, you feel secure, you feel content. So when we're thinking about familiarity, think about, like, you know, is there a book that you reread over and over again? Why is it you might watch the same movie and you feel comforted by watching that movie, right? Like growing up, I always watched the movie Adventures in Babysitting. And even to this day, like when I'm looking for like a comfort movie, that's the movie I go to and I've seen it like 100 times, right? So that sense of familiarity is a safety signal to you. So there's kind of two parts here, right? So body contact, familiarity help breed attachment. And this is also, you can think of attachment like, you know, I was out of the country for 3 weeks and I come back and I hear this Maroon 5 song on the radio and I heard it and I'm like, this is the dumbest song I've ever heard. Like, I hate the song. And then I hear it 5, 6, 7 more times on the radio. It's on nonstop. And all of a sudden I'm like singing along to it. And I'm like, oh, I really like this. Once again, the more you hear something, right, the more likely you are to become attached to it. And that's where we tie into this idea of like the mere exposure effect, right? Things that are more familiar to you help breed your liking of it. Question number 3 is talking about this idea of how does the formation of attachment differ between humans and animals? So if we're talking about humans and animals, they all have what we call a critical period. We've talked about this term before when we did development, talking about language. A critical period is an optimal period shortly after birth when an organism's exposure to certain stimuli or experiences produce proper development. So we talked about this in terms of language when we did cognition. Like if you're not exposed to language after the age of 7, it becomes very difficult for you to learn that language. So your critical period for language is birth to 7. So if we're talking about how is attachment different between humans and animals, animals can form their attachment by imprinting. Imprinting is the process where an animal forms a strong attachment during a critical period. The person that's swimming with ducks in that image on the right, his name is Konrad Lorenz. He's a psychologist, and he studied imprinting in animals. So what he would do is he would take these eggs, like duck eggs, and he would be right there when the eggs hatch, and the ducks would follow him around like as if he was their mother, right? So once that imprinting attachment is formed, it's very difficult to reverse. But I want to be very clear, humans do not imprint. They do, however, become attached to things that they've known. Right? So, you know, things that you know, think of once again, books, movies, and think of people, right? Like your attachments to the people that you see over and over again are going to be higher or stronger. So question number 4 at the very top talks about what are the characteristics of secure versus insecure attachment. This is another study that was done. It was a study done by Mary Ainsworth, and she designed what she calls the strain situation experiment. So basically, she had parents volunteer to come in with their children and put their children in quote unquote a strange situation. And the strange situation basically means that, they invite the kid into a room. So if you look on the image on the left, like you'd invite the kid into a room. The kid would kind of start playing around. And at some point, the mom or dad or whoever it is will leave the room. And and then a stranger will come into the room, right? And they would watch how the child reacts. So they're trying to study this idea of a secure attachment. So a secure attachment is the idea that the child will feel secure, understood, and be calm enough to experience their optimal development. And then the way that you would see a secure attachment would be like if the mother is present, the child is playing with the new toys in this new environment. The mother leaves, the child would notice the absence, and the child would cry. Right? Eventually the mother would come back in and the mother would try and comfort the child. And because what caused the child to be upset is the mother leaving, if the mother can comfort the child and the child stops crying, then that would be a secure attachment, because what caused the baby to cry or the infant to cry or child to cry is the mother leaving. And if the mother comes back and comforts the child and they can stop crying, that would demonstrate a secure attachment. An insecure attachment can lead to, generally speaking, an increase of anxiety or avoidance of trusting relationships later in life. That's the theory. So what would an insecure attachment look like? It's two things. And I would make sure you have note of this in your journal. So an insecure attachment would be like the mother is present, the baby's playing in the new environment. The mother leaves, the baby does not care, keeps playing. The mother returns, the baby doesn't care, keeps playing. Right? So there's kind of no attachment, you would say, between the mother and child. Because remember, they're in a strange situation. They're in a new situation. The other way that you could see an insecure attachment is the mother is present and the child maybe is crying, or the mother is present and the child's fine. Okay. The mom leaves and the baby starts crying. Right. So the child was fine. The mom leaves. Child notices mom's gone. He or she starts crying. And then the mother returns and the baby is still crying. It's insecure in this case because the mother's return still has the infant crying. If what caused the child to cry is the mother leaving, then when the mother comes back, the child should stop crying. But if they don't, that would be indicative of an insecure attachment. Okay. We're going to go ahead and end this video right now, and there will be a part 2 video coming up next.